All right, my friends, you're listening to the Dennis Prager Show, and I enjoy nothing more. Now, that's not true. I have to immediately interject in my own statement. There are things I enjoy more. However, one of the things I most enjoy is talking about religion to people who are not religious, and who have other views of life, and who are articulate in their way. And I have precisely such a man on, a distinguished professor at Tufts University, Daniel Dennett. He is professor of philosophy, co-director of the Center for Cognitive Studies at Tufts University, and his most recent book is Breaking the Spell, Religion as a Natural Phenomenon. Professor Dennett, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show.
I'm delighted to be with you, Dennis.
I thank you kindly. So let's do the first things first, the heaviest lifting first. What is the thesis of your book?
The thesis of my book is that religion can be studied as a natural phenomenon, just like music or baseball or money or anything else that is in the natural world, and that we jolly well should do it because it's too important a phenomenon to remain so ignorant about. So we should study it with the full set of tools that science gives us, science and history and all the other research disciplines.
Well, what's so controversial about that?
Well, a lot of people think that religion, that it's impertinent and obstreperous to study religion that way. A lot of people don't, but it's amazing how many people, when I suggest this, they get very upset and their feelings hurt, and they said, "Oh, you can't do that. That's improper. That's sacrilegious."
Well, I am very religious, and I have no problem with your using science to study my religion or anybody else's.
Well, good, but it's amazing. I'm sure you realize there are a lot of people that don't feel that way.
Yeah, but there must be more than. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me why anybody would object to that. The history of religion and everything else, you have every right, and indeed, I think religious people are obligated to.
Well, good. I'm glad you're on my side on that.
Well, on that one,
I'm not surprised in a way, because I found that perhaps the most vigorous and vituperative critics of my view are themselves people who are not particularly religious, but who think it's very important to protect religion from this kind of scrutiny.
Well,
very patronizing of them. By the way.
Well, once you do the scrutiny, what do you see? The question becomes. And here is where we may differ. I think we probably would. It is a non-issue to me that every objective discipline could be used to study religious phenomena or religious people or religious ideas as they could anything else. The question, I guess, where we would differ is, if you reduce religion, or for you it may not be a reduction, but if you reduce religion solely to another natural phenomenon, and that it is impossible that something non-scientifically measurable can exist, then you and I have a difference.
Well, I don't say it's impossible. I say we should study it with the presumption that we'll see if there's anything that we can't study scientifically. But we don't start with the presumption that there isn't going to be anything.
Let's take me, okay? I am prepared to be your study object.
Okay.
All right? I believe that a man named Moses received a document called the Ten Commandments from God at Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
How do you apply the scientific method to what I fully acknowledge is a statement of faith?
No. Well, let's take it right just the way you gave it to me.
Okay.
You learned that the way most of us learn most things that we know, by being told or reading it in a book when we're younger. We've lost track of exactly when we learned it. So this is something which for you was part of common knowledge as you grew up, and so you almost certainly have never subjected it to really vigorous scientific scrutiny to see whether or not the evidence supports it. It's just one of those things that you assume to be true unless it's shown otherwise, right?
I assume to be true unless shown otherwise. Right. I would go further. I don't think it's possible to show otherwise. I fully acknowledge it's a statement of faith.
Well,
How can you scientifically show me otherwise? You're going to tell me a man named Moses never existed? You can't prove the non-existence of someone.
No, and in fact, I wouldn't even try, because I think that in fact, propositions of this sort, propositions of faith, are actually one of the least important aspects of religious phenomena. and that one of the interesting features of religion in the last, say, 2,000 years is the gradual migration of religious doctrine away from provability and disprovability, so that the very feature that you describe is well understood, or can be well understood, to be a sort of natural adaptation of religions. They have, in the old days, religions were very disconfirmable, and people didn't just take them on faith. And over the years, people learned that it was advisable to make them matters of faith rather than matters of confirmation or disconfirmation.
Well, I'll tell
very
you,
few people these days, they say, well, they say, I put my faith in the Lord, but you notice that they also try to keep food in the fridge, and they buy life insurance and things like that because they think they've got to take care of themselves too.
Right, but why are those mutually contradictory ideas?
Well,
I mean, the idea that I have faith in the Lord and therefore I won't buy food is in the provenance of an idiot.
Well, you have to remember that in earlier religions, people put their faith in gods and jumped off cliffs and ran into hails of arrows and things like that, expecting not to be hurt, and they were hurt because they put their faith in gods that couldn't deliver what they were putting their faith in. And
right. Well, all your
religions that had that sort of creed, you'll notice, are rather thin on the ground these days.
Yeah, of course. But they've been thin on the ground for thousands of years.
Well, actually, for about 2,000 years. But
okay, so fine. All right. Well, of course the religious ideas have evolved into greater sophistication. Well, why wouldn't they? So have secular ideas, hopefully. Yeah. Although I actually don't think so. I think the secular world is profoundly stupid, which is what I'd like to talk to you about. I really do. I think there are wonderful people there, and there are a lot of jerks in my world. But I have found no wisdom in the secular world. None.
None at all.
None at all.
Well, where have you been looking?
Everywhere. I have devoted my life. I went to an Ivy League university in the liberal arts in graduate work. I would say that when I look at the university, and I don't mean this in any way to be insulting, I think the university is among the least intelligent places in America today. I agree with William Buckley that I am more likely to get wisdom from 100 names in the Cambridge phone book than 100 professors at Harvard. And the proof is that only in your work, the university, can a man lose his job for saying men and women have different brains. I think the religious are more scientifically open than the secular are.
Well, I think you have a point there. I think that there have been sort of fads of political correctness and things like that in academia, and I've been just as opposed to them, I think, as you are. But I think that that's, in effect, the price, sometimes exorbitant, that we have to pay for the sort of academic freedom that makes truly bizarre but eventually well-confirmed ideas explorable. We have to let 1,000 flowers bloom and then 900 of them wilt, and then we've got 100 really pretty amazing flowers that wouldn't exist if it weren't for that academic freedom.
Well, how do you account for the fact that if you took 100 PhDs in sociology and 100 plumbers at your local evangelical church, the 100 plumbers are far more likely to believe that men and women are basically different than the 100 secular PhDs?
Well, it'd be interesting to set a proper test of that. You might be right.
So how do you account for that? If we're benighted in the religious world and secularism liberates us from that darkness, how do you account for that?
Well, first of all, I'm not so sure that what percentage of those 100 plumbers are going to be secular.
No, I said at the evangelical church.
Oh, at the
yes.
evangelical
yes.
church. Well, both groups have been given a lot of information and told, this is what everybody knows. And both groups have pretty much accepted most of what they've been taught in that way. And they've been taught different things. And there's things that the sociologists do know, which are surprising and interesting, and that they have discovered. They also may share a great deal of so-called common wisdom, which is just not wise at all. And the same thing is going to be true about your plumbers, by the way. There's going to be a lot of things that they're going to believe, which would be quite ludicrous.
Okay, that's what I want to know when we come back, and we'll return. I have Professor Daniel Dennett, his latest book, Breaking the Spell, Religion as a Natural Phenomenon. I'm Dennis Prager.